before we go into the next set of motions, we've got a company coming in. Obviously, we're talking about our name. I'm just making it very clear to conference that this was a decision made. I talked to the NEC, talked to the SOC about whether or not this branding exercise should take place at this conference before we have the debate about our name. The instruction I've given to the branding company is at the end of the day, we've got to be neutral. We cannot, or try to not, influence this decision of this conference. But I think it is important, if you agree, that we have an expert give you their opinion of the work that they've done regarding the name of the NFRN. Does conference agree with that? Please show. Okay, so you're going to hear a presentation now. When you've heard the presentation, we'll then immediately go into the conference motions regarding the name of the NFRN.
Please welcome to the stage Jill Burgess, Managing Director of Revolution, who is going to present on the NFRN brand.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to be here. So this morning, yes, I'm going to present to you some work that my company, Revolution, has been asked to do to consider some options around the core organisation name and the identity around that, following on from the discussion and presentation that Natalie made around the new brand colours, etc. This is around the naming of the organisation. So as a starting point, when we look at an exercise like this, what we do is we investigate the heritage of the company or the business or the organisation that we're looking for. So clearly the NFRN has a rich history, being founded in 1919, way back in those days in Leicester. And since then, the organisation has continued to champion the independent retailers across the UK and has been very successful doing that, today representing in excess of 15,000 independent stores. And it has ambitious plans, as I'm sure you agree, to extend that membership and to continue to represent the businesses really well and be fit for purpose. So it has ambitions. Over the history of the organisation, I'm sure you'll be aware that the name has evolved to reflect the membership, starting with its first net registered name as the National Federation of Retail Newsagents, Booksellers and Stationers, bit of a mouthful. It then evolved to be the National Federation of Retail Newsagents, and today, of course, as you well know, we have the NFRN, the Federation of Independent Retailers, which is its registered name. And there's a little sort of snapshot back into history here, just to show how the brand and the name has actually been represented through a few pieces of collateral over the years. I think these are from the archive in the headquarters in Durham. But this has, to some extent, created a confusing picture, the picture that has been referred to this morning. We've already heard about the evolution of the brand colours, the very strong new palette that you've got, which is looking amazing. But there is some confusion around the name, the acronym, and the use of the Fed, also the URL being the Fed Online. And that's really the challenge that my business were asked to just investigate and give you a few options for consideration. So you can see here, this is a sort of summary of that confusion to some extent. We've got the icon in the hexagon, which some of you, and I think I've heard referred to as Mr. News, the Mr. News icon, which has been part of the heritage of the organisation for a long time. We've got the NFRN acronym and the Federation of Independent Retailers clearly sitting underneath it, but then we have the Fed being increasingly used, particularly across digital channels. So why does this matter? Why is it important that we just have the opportunity to reflect and review and make decisions on the way forward here? So with a very clear ambition for the organisation to be the #1 federation for independent retailers in the UK, it's important that your brand has power, has synergy, has confidence, and really, really differentiates the organisation to its members and its potential members. and have consistency across all channels. Increasingly, we've heard this morning about the importance of digital channels. I noticed with the voting how many of you use mobile phones to access information on the website, the social media, the increase in social media in terms of a communication channel for membership and to keep things moving really quickly. And to have that sort of consistency across all channels will build trust and clarity in the brand. It's important as well, as I started with, to talk about to represent the organisation's rich heritage. And my business, and I think a lot of organisations, when they look at branding, really are looking at a process of evolution. It's a case of moving forward with the times, making sure that the brand that you have is truly fit for purpose for the channels that you're using to communicate now. So we need a brand that's going to be relevant for today, but for tomorrow as well, and to really support and catalyse the organisation through into its next phase of growth. A few key factors that we've taken into consideration that have already been referred to this morning are the constantly evolving nature of the membership of the organisation, the rise, for example, in convenience stores, coffee shops, the change in the membership base. We have, of course, an emerging tranche of next generation members and independent retailers, younger people taking over independent retail stores who are really tech savvy. They're very, very familiar, intuitive, and expect to get all the information they want online, maybe probably from their mobile phone. They're busy people, they need access to information quickly and at their fingertips. You're all busy running your businesses, you need that information as readily as possible. So whatever the brand is, it needs to stand up on a really small screen. You know, look on a mobile phone. There's very little space there. There's very little real estate on a mobile phone to have a brand which is confident and strong for you. And that's some of the challenge that we've got today. So what we want to do is create real clarity, move away from any ambiguity, and give you the opportunity to consider some options for the future. So the options that we were asked to look at and present today are whether we keep the NFRN or potentially move the organisational name to the Fed, or indeed another solution which will be discussed this morning. A few pros and cons. The NFRN clearly reflects the organisation heritage and references retail news, which is such a fundamental part of the organisation heritage and where you are today. However, as I've already referred to, there is some confusion. What does that acronym actually stand for today? We've got the URL of the Fed online, and we've got the Fed increasingly being used across digital channels for email news, and that area of the business is growing. To some extent, the acronym is a little bit dated and not very future-focused. Conversely, the Fed is a strong, very independent word, confident, very memorable, it's URL appropriate, and the URL is well established now. It's the one consistent part of the organisation's name, and I've already heard a few people this morning just talk about the Federation as the shorthand language that you refer to yourselves. So it is appropriate from that perspective, and there has already been a move in that direction to a certain extent. However, it's quite a bold move if you choose to move that way. You know, there needs some confidence around that. And you may feel that it's one step away from the organisational heritage too far. Just to be clear, what we're referencing today is actually the trade name. We're not looking at changing the registered name of the organisation. So as you'll know, organisations trade under different brand names. So the consideration for the name here is really the branding name rather than the registered name. As I've mentioned, the approach here is really to evolve and move things forward rather than to have radical change. So the brand mark that I've sort of used to reference to Mr. News here, you'll be familiar with that over on your screens. The traditional, the original yellow and black character has evolved into the icon that it is today. And we've done some work just looking to refine and progress that, as you can see it moving across the screen, to something which is simplified, still celebrating the heritage, but fresh and relevant and future-focused. This brand mark, which is an evolution, as I say, is simple and contemporary. It will say different things to different people, but it has got a human-centric approach to it, which I'm sure you can see. It's also got a sort of heart symbol, and increasingly hearts are used so much across social media to drive behaviour. It's a very engaging icon. So this is one potential solution for the evolution of that brand mark and having an icon which is powerful to use for the future. Just showing you very quickly how an icon such as this can work not just across digital channels, but also across traditional channels, print and also merchandise. It can be a really valuable and powerful shorthand for you, which can really engage your target audience. So what we're looking to do is try and create an opportunity to have consistency across all brand channels. And we've looked at some simple executions for the main brand, which would work across all channels with the challenges that we've described this morning. So here we have a continuation of the NFRN, but we've just changed the typography of that. We've kept the rich red, which will work with the new colour palette, and the simple lettering underneath explaining that actually it's the Federation of Independent Retailers. So it's a simple, strong, bold identity for you. We also have an option here, similar, which is wrapping in the brand icon, the Mr. News icon, as a core feature within the brand. Alternatively, if the decision is to move to the Fed, we have here an execution for the Fed, which is bold, modern, contemporary, very simple. It creates a very simple brand device that can be used across small screens as well as all traditional material. And it uses a spectrum of the traditional organisational's red to represent the eclectic and diverse nature of the membership. Or here we have an option using strong typography, again bringing in the Mr. News icon and having the mix of upper and lowercase in an interesting juxtaposition to create a really nice, strong brand. So I hope that you'll think that we've given you something to think about this morning here at conference, that these options do respect the organisation's heritage, which is so important. They also reflect the organisation's profile, membership profile, and they're truly effective for you in terms of all channels going forward. So that's a summary of those options for consideration and I think some debate this morning.
Okay, thank you. I'm a bit nervous about this, but does anybody want to ask any questions while we've got the branding expert up there? There's a question. You want to come to the rostrum if you want questions. You need to come to the rostrum. Just be mindful. We've got to be careful here. We're treading. I know you've given the go ahead to do it, but I just want to be careful what latitude we have. Okay, question.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Navin Patel, Brighton Branch, South East District. My only concern is it was a very good presentation, bearing all in mind about our heritage of 100 years old. But to use the name like the Fed, I think there are a lot of other organizations out there which carries the name the Fed. And somebody just has to sue us and we could be in a lot of trouble. So what is the legality of it?
Point of order. We've checked all this out. The Fed is available. There's no problems whatsoever. But can you keep your questions to the presenter to what you want to ask a question about? Do you want to come to the rostrum? Alan Dryden would always walk to the rostrum.
Northern District, Durham Branch. I think everything that everybody says here is relevant to the debate we're going to have later. I don't think we should discuss this. I think we should go on to the motion. That young lady, if she wants to stand at the back and listen, She can. But everything here that everybody says, I could come up and say things that were publicising my views. And I think that's what's happening.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I take that point, but I also take the point that I asked conference before we started this if you wanted to listen to the experts and listen to that debate, and that was overwhelmingly said yes. And I'm just asking conference if you want to ask a question of the branding expert while she's here, but not really talk about the name as such. And you know, I could think of some questions I would ask, but okay. Well, just let me ask the question again. Is everybody comfortable with people standing here asking the branding expert some questions? Please show. Okay, that's the majority of people want to go ahead with it. Thank you. Abdul.
Thank you. Abdul Kader, Scotland. I'm really pleased that the branding expert has come up with our brand, which is going strong for 100 years. And she hasn't produced something wacky like some of the companies do. So, you know, both the Fed and the NFRN, I'm at ease because that's what we are. And, you know, we're going to have a debate and we'll have a good debate. But this is refreshing to see that the so-called experts have stuck to our core values. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker. Sorry, question. Next question.
Okay, yeah, Michael Garner, National Council, South East. I'm quite happy with we got up there already. I think they've done a lot of work in producing what they think here. But I want to look on the outside of that. NFRN, Fed, we all know what it means, but does anybody else know what it means? I wonder whether we should look in at the future of looking at what the rest of the world thinks of the whole country, because I think that's quite important, that we're spreading our word to the rest of retailers, business, etc. And like FSB, if an emergency has come forward...
Sorry, Mike.
That's not a question, okay, yeah, no. So my question is, I'm quite happy, but I think we should be elaborating more on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Listen, we've got to be careful here. I agree, actually, with what Colin just said, that these have got to be questions to the brand person. Don't talk about generally. If there's any specific questions to the brand person that you have, I'm happy to take them in conferences as well, but not talk generally about, because that will come in debate.
Hi, College Second District Delegate for the West Midlands. The new logo, it looks like a helmet in a way.
What's your question?
Well, it looks like a helmet. It looks like a Power Ranger. It looks like a Power Ranger.
Would you like to answer? That's the first question we've had, but that's the reason. Could you hear what he said?
It's a Power Ranger.
Yeah, red Power Ranger.
Is that
I suppose,
a bad thing?
in a way, we are Power Rangers in a way, aren't we, really?
Can you answer the question as to how you came about with that? And I'm sure it wasn't looking at Power.
I hope we won't be subject to copyright.
No, this has been developed, seriously, it's been developed sort of as an evolution from the existing Mr. News. So I think if there's a bit of Power Ranger in there, that's not a bad thing. But it is unique artwork that's been developed for you.
Okay, well done for asking a question. Kamal, question only.
Yeah. Good morning, Kamal Fakir, London District. The logo, the heart-shaped, the sentiment is there. However, I think it's too, one for the better phrase, in my opinion, lovey-dovey. Have you got any other options, sort of going from what we have now and going something in between? Have you had options of maybe another sort of... Something that means we are in business, but we are very, very inclusive.
So the question is
there an option of the logo which is less, one for the better word, softer?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Of course, I mean, this is an execution that we've presented because we think this works really well, but everything's open to refinement. If the conference decided that they wanted something around this, but they wanted some tweaks, then I'm sure that could be addressed. It would be interesting to really understand the brief you know, to just understand what the members actually want and what the challenges are around this. So through discussion and iteration, I'm sure we could arrive at something that works for you.
Okay, next speaker.
John Parkinson, ATFS North Wales branch. Two questions. The first one is, have you considered any other names apart from the ones that are on the screen? And the second question is, it's interesting the use of the red, but on the right, have you considered using red for the Fed and black for the figure?
Thank you. We weren't actually asked to consider any other names at this stage. We were just asked to consider these as alternative options. The colour palettes that we've got here, as you can see, obviously we've featured the red and black as very simple, bold and reflecting the organisation's heritage. But the next stage would be to develop some brand guidelines, and that would actually specify how the colours could be used and whether they could be reversed between them. So there would be some flexibility in how this palette was used.
Okay, next speaker.
Julia Bywater, and it's a question, not a speaker. Did you do any market research into what other people thought of our name and how confusing it was perceived to be by others? You know, I mean, for instance, Federation of Retail Newsagents, but underneath the strapline, Federation of Independent Retailers, did people say, well, why isn't it called FIR and things like that? Because, you know, from an outsider's point of view looking in, that's important to us to move forward. Did you get that come back?
So thank you for the question. Yeah, we weren't briefed to do any market research on this. The brief around the confusion of the name really came from the team, the headquarters team, because I think they'd already gathered from discussions with membership and others that there was confusion around that, and I think that is the key challenge for you here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. Ali Awan, Gateshead, Northern District. The hexagon, that's been known as the Federation's logo for decades now. I've just WhatsApped that logo, the new logo that you've just put up there, and my wife turned around and she says, that's just a man with the shoulders. That's why do we need to change that logo?
What's your question?
Why do we need to change that logo? There's nothing wrong with the hexagon.
Okay.
Well, clearly, branding is a matter of opinion. The team that I've worked with to evolve that brand feel that the roundel, moving from the hexagon to the roundel and having the simplified icon is more contemporary, is more representative of the full membership rather than specifically the sort of newspaper reading icon, and will work better across small screens.
Okay. Right, so when do you think you're going to be incorporating that, if it goes ahead?
That's down to us, not down to the presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Morning, delegates. Morning, President. Bhavna Patel, North West District, Stockport, Macclesfield. Historically, I've got a bit of a design background, and I love the way this looks. It's more of a comment, not a question. I do. I think we need to move forward with it. I think it's brilliant. It's bold.
Okay. Is there a question?
No, there isn't. It was a comment, and we can tweak it. We can tweak it going forward.
Sorry. It's only questions. Only questions. Okay, we did pretty well. We got a few questions. Gail, thank you very much for presenting.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.